Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Robbie Rhino, and in today's video I am carrying on with my series looking at scouting and playing light tanks in World of Tanks console. In this series I shall be looking at different locations on various maps in the game using both light tanks in the Cold War game mode and the World War II game mode. I'll be giving you my sort of talk through of the gameplay, my kind of thought processes and where I like to go, how I like to use my light tanks. Like I said in my first video in this series, it's not intended to be a comprehensive guide on light tank gameplay in the game. This is a rough guide on some good starter locations to go to with your light tanks, both in World War II and the Cold War game mode, and it's a good sort of starting point, and then you can trial and error with different tanks, find what locations suit you. But these are sort of generic spotting locations, scouting locations, and also sort of scouting tactics and things that I like to try to get the most out of my light tanks in the game. So in the first video in this series I looked at the EBR-105, which is a World War II tank, and now we're looking at the BMP-2 in today's video, which is an Era 2 Eastern Alliance light tank in the Cold War game mode. And this tank has a 30mm auto cannon and an 80 GM launcher that you can use with the multiple weapon system, meaning you can switch between them at just the hold down of a button. So a lot of people think that view range and concealment is kind of not important in Cold War, and I completely disagree with that. With the true vision system that is in the Cold War game mode, it does mean that you are visible at all times to the enemy if they are looking for you with the naked eye. However, there is a difference between being visible and being detected. So when you're detected, you are lit up, your location is flagged for the whole team, they all know where you are, and it seems that all of the attention immediately turns to you, especially if you're a light tank in an open field like I am at the moment. So that's why I like to run the smoke consumable with my Cold War light tanks, because you can't use it in the World War II game mode. So in this video we are using the BMP-2's fantastic concealment and pretty good view range to outspot the opponents and get as much assistance as we can. And like I said just a minute ago, I think that vision is so important in Cold War. It gives you an indication of where the enemy team are going. It gives you an indication of where there might be vulnerabilities in the enemy's defenses, where you might be able to get in and flank. And just by spotting up, it means that your team don't have to go through that painstaking process of sort of scanning bushes, scanning the horizon, and putting themselves in harm's way. And if you can scout for your team, you give your tanks the best, or your team I should say, the best chance of getting a good result out of the gameplay. And you can see here with the BMP-2, I'm firing at sort of 250, 260 meters away and not getting lit up because this thing has an insane concealment rating. And I will tell you my commander and equipment setup in the next replay. So we're here on Pearl River, which is the focus of the first gameplay, and at the start of the battle I tried to scout out down the western flank, so down the 1 and 2 line. We managed to sort of circle around the little river on Pearl River that likes to run in the sort of H4 location. We spotted up some tanks that are sort of sat in E1, E2 that have just been lit up again. I'm not sure if that was by me or by the light tank that is to the west of me, but it gives you a good indication of how many tanks are on that flank and where I might want to sort of refocus my attention. We got some assistance early doors, and now I'm trying to cover my cap circle, because as I noticed, there were some enemies that were coming down the sort of the 9-0 line, coming towards our base, and now I'm just trying to spot them out for my team. And we managed to get a little bit of direct damage, but we're already up to 3.1k assistance, and now I'm just using the mobility of the BMP-2 to try and escape being detected, and I'm going to try and pop up in a different location to surprise the enemy tanks. So they have the middle of the map, which is a very important part of Pearl River. It's a fantastic sort of place to go and spot out, but also to brawl if you're in a heavy tank. So at the end of the battle, or sort of at the part of the battle, I'm going to try and take that from the enemy team if the opportunity arises. There is a Scorpion 90, a very sneaky, powerful light tank on the enemy team that I would love to get my hands on, put an 80GM into, and fire my 30mm autocannon into the rear of his tank. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be overly aggressive at the start of the battle. With the Cold War game mode, you have to bear in mind that the DPM on a lot of tanks is absolutely ferocious, and they can rip you apart in no time at all because you do have less hit points as a light tank. During the mid part of the battle, when I've done the early spotting, I like to sort of float around the battlefield, going to different parts of the battlefield that I notice where team needs help. I noticed that my team was struggling to sort of progress down this western flank, so I've come back over here. I've taken out the enemy, I think it was the BMP-1 on the enemy team, taken out a tank, and now I'm going to go back towards the sort of middle, towards the cap circle, and try and spot out things that are sort of hanging around the middle here, and just keep things lit up for my team. And the mobility of most light tanks in the game, both in World War II and the Cold War game mode, mean that you can switch between flanks very easily, and Pearl River is a great sort of place to do that. You're able to go from one flank to another within a couple of minutes in a highly mobile tank like the BMP-2. Of course, it does depend on what light tank you are using, but these are this sort of series and these videos are just a rough guide of sort of where to go and things to try, and maybe I'll do a more comprehensive review on light tank gameplay in the future. So you saw me there going close to that rock, and my intention was to proximity spot that Scorpion 90 in the middle of the map. So if you get within 50 meters of an enemy, it means that you light them up. I was hoping that my enemy team would manage to get a shot in on him, but it looks like I'm gonna go in now. I feel like there's no one else here but the light tank. I'm going to come up here and try and surprise this Scorpion 90 by flanking him in the middle and reclaiming this middle area for our team, which means that we have extra view range for the latter part of the battle. I'm going to take my time, just fire an 80GM right into the back and side of the Scorpion 90, take him out. And a great thing to do in your light tanks is, if you can, to take out the enemy light tanks. If you take out their view range, you have the sort of view range advantage for the battle. It's a fantastic advantage to have both in the World War II and Cold War gameplay, and it means that you are able to sort of abuse your concealment and your view range at the later part of the battle. So I've noticed this FE-4-211 has its rear to us, it's fighting tanks below us. We're going to come in now, put an 80GM in, and then rip him to shreds with the 30mm autocannon. And just by taking out a couple tanks there, the tide of this battle has turned. We are now massive favourites to win this battle, and you can use your mobility at the end of the battle just to sort of flank opponents and get as much damage as you can at the end of the battle. So here I'm just using this hard cover to avoid getting hit and waiting for my heavy tanks to come up and support me, waiting for my 80GM to reload, and we get a lovely shell taking out that T-72M1. And now it's just a case of coming behind this FE-4-211 and trying to penetrate his side. I'm trying to get right into the rear, but he is doing the right thing by reversing up. However, by reversing up, he pushes us up and we can get some shells into the engine deck. And yeah, I don't know what I'm doing at this point. I probably should just be waiting for my 80GM to reload or running away, but I'm distracting that heavy tank, and it means that my friendly FE-4-211 takes him out. So to recap, in terms of the spotting on Pearl River, I spotted out down the eastern flank. There's some fantastic bushes, there's good ridgelines you can pop up, spot enemies and fall back. I then went to the centre to try and reclaim that, and then I used my ability to sort of switch between flanks, spotting out both of the sides. And as soon as I'm detected, I'm using the smoke consumable to get away from enemy fire, and I'm trying to pop up in different locations on both flanks to surprise the enemy. And in a map like this, where there are sort of three different fighting places, there's the eastern, the western and the middle part, it means that you can sort of switch between either flank with your mobility and help your team out that way. So in terms of that battle, we finish with 4.5k direct damage, 3.5k assistance, we get 5 kills, and we make a profit of 89,000 silver, which is always nice in the Cold War game mode. So we are now going to head into the second replay in the BMP-2, which is a focus on Westfield. Righty-ho, then we are on Westfield in the BMP-2, and Westfield is probably my second favourite map for spotting, slightly behind the map Prokhorovka, which you saw in the first replay of today's video. So Westfield is a large open map. It has lots of foliage to use the fantastic concealment of the BMP-2. It allows me to get across the map very quickly using these massive slopes, and you can get a lot of assistance, spotting assistance that is, on this map from this particular position that I am using now. And it works from pretty much any spawn, depending on what side you come from. You just select a different bush and you sit accordingly depending on how good your concealment is and what tank you are using. Of course, with the BMP-2 and any Cold War tank, you have that true vision system, which I mentioned in the first gameplay of today's video. So I am visible, but if I'm sitting in the shadows behind a bush, I'm pretty much invisible to those tanks there, and it means that I can fire with impunity here. The only thing I have to watch out for is other light tanks in bushes near me, and also enemy tanks that are tracking my ATGMs and tracking my autocannon when I fire and looking at the shell tracers. But as you can see, I'm doing some fantastic spotting at the start of this battle, sat here in F6, and anywhere along this sort of ridgeline here is fantastic for spotting out the south. And likewise, if I was coming from the opposite spawn, I'd be trying to spot out all of the tanks or my friendlies that are sat currently in F0. And you can see here I'm firing, I'm not getting lit up, but I am very aware of that BMP-2 that is sort of floating around the bottom here, and it looks like I'm going to try and have to take him out. He's going to be an absolute nuisance to me. Very like me, he's a very powerful tank with a multiple working system, and I'm just going to go in and try and take him out as fast as possible. I'm using my mobility, I'm damaging a lot of his modules already, so I have the upper hand, and he is taken out by the Leopard 1A1 on our team. Popped some smoke there, meaning that me and my friendlies can escape while trying to avoid getting lit, and then we're going to go back into the same position. And now that BMP-2 is out of the way, there's no other light tanks on the enemy team. We have the king of the view range, and like I said, it's not going to be a comprehensive review, but this is a fantastic position to start off with. Anywhere within this vicinity is fantastic for spotting. Just be mindful of TDs and other light tanks that are going to be sitting in these bushes, but this is a fantastic position to play around with. You can deal a lot of assistance damage. You could have some fantastic games. So just to touch upon my commander and equipment setup in the BMP-2. In terms of my equipment, I run advanced concealment, traction system and advanced powertrain. And in terms of my commander skills, I run 6th Sense, Spawn Leader, Steady Aim, Rapid Aim, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Camouflage Expertise, Muffled Shot, Situational Awareness. So that setup gives me a concealment value of 152 meters still concealment, which is absolutely phenomenal. It means that I'm going to be largely invisible unless they actually see the silhouette of my tank. And it just means that I'm able to get really close to the enemies, and it means that I don't have to run advanced optics. If this was a World War II tank, I'd run advanced optics with my equipment. However, the view range is so good on these light tanks in Cold War that it's largely ineffective if you have a highly concealed tank. It means that you can play really aggressively, get up close, use the foliage and spot the tanks that way. In terms of my view range, I have 556 meters with my setup, which is more than enough. And if you're doing things like this, getting up close and personal, yeah, you definitely don't need that view range. You just need this mobility, and I'm just ripping this M103A2 to shreds. Completely dirt my ATGM there, but we still have some shells left in our autocannon. We set that M103A2 on fire, and yeah, we pop some smoke and get behind some hard cover, and now we're just going to go forward. We've all but won this game. I want to try and get the most out of this game that I can, so I'm just going to go forward, try and see if I can get any more assistance and any more direct damage out of this game. So you've seen I've used that location to spot out for the majority of the battle when the enemy team have started to sort of dissipate. A lot of their numbers have gone down. I've used my ability to push forward, be the first one there, getting the assistance, getting the damage and trying to finish off low health targets. And now I'm just gonna rip this Conqueror to shreds. The autocannon is great for setting things on fire. We take that Conqueror out, and now it's just a case of trying to get this Leopard 1A1 out of the game. I'm just waiting for my ATGM to reload. I'm hoping that I'm able to fire it 1 second left on it. I'm going to try and fire hit on the move, manage to penetrate it, and that's it for that game. So we finished with 8.2k direct damage there, finishing an MVP slot with 3 kills and 4k assistance, and we make a nice profit, mastery badge, and we also block a little bit of damage in the BMP-2, which is always nice. So I hope that this video was useful to you, giving you a couple of ideas on where to play on Pearl River and on Westfield with your light tanks if you are a newer player, and if you're a more veteran player, more experienced player, I hope that you enjoyed the gameplay and maybe picked up a thing or two with the commentary. If you did, please leave a like and a comment, and I will read that and get back to you as soon as possible. But that's it for today's video. I hope you're all having an awesome week, and until next time, I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.